This is a very, very mature intention. It's not going to go through changes. The stuff with this idea of right intention is true. If you have come to a place where you say, I'm going to devote my life, my emotions, my intellect, my psyche, and you need to have a great amount of self-knowledge, man, where you say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm never going to change it. So this stuff that you read, right intentions, it's not for you and I, man. You know, you make a promise, you forget. Then you remember. Then you're motivated. Then you forget. Did that make sense? All right. So how does one become motivated? Let me first tell you about this manufactured motivation, and then we'll go to something that's a little bit more complicated. About 3 months ago or so in my country, Iran, a young woman aged 22 or 23, she was on the bus with her brother, and I think I don't know where they went, maybe Tehran, the capital, or some city. And we have in Iran these security officers called the morality police. And they walk around, men and women in suits, and they mainly look at women, because women are supposed to have a headscarf. They can't show too much of their hair or their face. I mean, face is okay, but not too much of her head, hair. And this particular morality police, maybe they had some issues, maybe they woke up in a bad way, I'm not quite sure. They said to this girl with brother, you're showing too much of your hair. They said, no, it's normal. I've been this way for the past like 10 years. No, they grab her by force. Her brother says, Baba, we are from this village. We just came here for a visit. The hell are you guys doing? No. They shove her into the car. They take her to the station. They beat her up. She falls into a coma. She's only 22, 23. All because she was showing a bit of hair. And then she dies. Iran has been, the people of Iran, they have been under the tyranny of this theocracy. A bunch of old guys sitting on their throne and telling the rest of the Persians how they should live their life. Things are really, really expensive. You can't buy chicken, you can't buy eggs, you can't buy milk. Everything is expensive. You need to have 2-3 jobs to pay rent. So there is already a good amount of anger inside people. Okay. Women have no rights. Men who have degrees don't have jobs because the society can't create jobs. You need money, you need resources, and they have none. So you have about 40 years of anger being pent up inside the collective psyche of Persians. And the news all of a sudden goes viral. The morality police beat this girl up simply because she was showing hair. For the past 20 days or so, Iran has been turned upside down. People are rioting. They are torching everything. Now they are motivated. And it took only a spark for their motivation to take place. Think about George Floyd. It's the same exact scenario. You have a good amount of repressed emotions, not just in African Americans, but in people of color, as well as Caucasians, white folks. Okay? It takes one death that's unjustified to motivate a riot. But here's the thing you need to understand about these motivational riots or revolutions. They don't transform you as a human being completely, but they put a mask on human nature for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, maybe 1 year. Eventually you're going to come out being the same old corrupt human being that you've always been. Look, imagine I'm a drunk. I come home, my son or daughter run to me. I've had a hard day. I'm a little buzzed. They run to me and I slap my son and he cries. And as the tears flow down his cheeks, I begin to self-reflect. And I feel really, really bad about what I have done. I feel so bad that I want to grab a knife and just cut my own jugular so I don't have to be present to see what I have created. It pains me too much, hurts me too much. I am in anguish. I whisper to the angels, please come down and just kill me, so I no longer have to witness my child in tears. But you see, I don't die. My prayers remain unanswered. I collect myself. I am inspired by compassion. That inspiration has been generated by my son's tears. I run to him. I hug him. I apologize. I even cry. I say, let's go to the park. Let's go to the movies. Let's spend the day together. You see, I am inspired to transform, to change, to be different. But don't mistake that inspiration, the desire to change, as if that inspiration is going to delete, erase my 30 years of having a past that has been traumatic. It's never going to happen. That's Sigmund Freud for you. If you've had a difficult past, you have done a great job by not letting it come out. But what you need to know is it will come out. Unless you train yourself really, really well, read well, be mindful well, it will come out. I mean, look, of all the awful things that have been said about Will Smith, here's a man, a great reputation, a great past, but then he slips. A tiny episode is enough to crack him open, and then all of his history, a history that you and I were unaware of, comes to the surface and destroys 30 years of him having a relatively good reputation. So I take my son out. We have a great time. He goes to bed calmly, peacefully, happily, and I am relatively happy too. But the grind starts again tomorrow. I go to Home Depot. I run into customers I dislike. I have a boss I dislike, a job I dislike. I'm stuck in traffic. I come home extremely exhausted. My son says hello, I say, hi. My wife says hello, I say, is there food? She says, I'm cooking. Where's the bottle? She pleads with me. Not today. Your son was so happy. But you see, that inspiration is not enough to remove the troubles of the day. It starts with a sip, then with a cup, then with the entire bottle. Now I go back with being the man I've always been, abusive. And my son imagines I am the person that he met yesterday. He comes to sit on my lap and I push him, and his head bangs on the concrete floor. He cries, but because I'm drunk, I have lost my wits. I just don't care. And I scream, why are you crying? What is wrong with you? Grow up! That's inspiration for you. Inspiration without commitment. You see, my people back home, they are noble now. Occupy Oakland some years ago. Everybody had become a saint and a sage. But it's not enough to change anyone. It doesn't have a long life shelf. I'm sorry? Moving forward. My son will never move forward. Oh, yeah, my son will never be moved forward. He may remain stuck being 5 for the rest of his life. He'll go to school. He'll try to manage. He'll get into a few relationships. The women will leave him, or he will leave them. He may even have children. None of those things mean anything, because eventually, little by little, as he gets older, and the thing about getting older is that the masks that you've been wearing that have helped you being sociable, they slowly fall apart. You just become your true self as you get older. And eventually he'll just be a drunk like me, you know. He'll abuse himself and other people in his life. And then he'll seek out therapy, whether it's in AA or some person, you know, in whose office he'll visit once in a while. But his life will be a complete waste. Now, there is a way out. But the way out is really, 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 really difficult, because it involves a lot of pain. Oh, really? Change is always, always, always difficult.
Certain aspects, not all aspects, you want to change. But if you don't want to change, you have to. Some people like change, some people they don't want to change. Now they're gonna have to change certain things. You just be a woman, for a man.
Can I ask you a question?
Use all your abuse on her instead of using it on me. So that's traumatizing to a lot of women now moving forward with this same police officer being in your country.
You have to forgive me when I interjected saying, can I ask a question? From that point on, I just couldn't hear you anymore. Imagine I was to tell you, I'm going to give you a house. They're building a house somewhere in Oakland. It's about $6 million, 19 bedrooms. It's actually a great price. It's not finished. I say to you, I've made the down payment, $2 million. $3 million is left on the house. I want to give it to you, your companion, and your children. Would you want it? The answer is yes.
No, the answer would be, what is it coming with?
Nothing. Are you kidding me? I am giving you a house, 19 bedrooms.
You can say you're giving me something, but then it also comes with something.
Hold on. Do you need the house? See, if you don't need the house, this conversation is irrelevant. If, on the other hand, you live in a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom with 4 kids and a husband, that space is tiny. All you have is people screaming. There is no peace. So when I tell you, would you like this house? If you have any sense to you, if you know that a 2-bedroom is not sufficient for 5 or 6 or 7 people, you'll jump on it. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say, here is the papers for this house. It's yours. You say, okay. You talk it over with your husband. You come to me, you say, okay, Amir, we're willing. But here's what you need to understand. You're making a big change in your life. The property tax on a $6 million house is about $60,000 a year. Just the property tax. I'm not talking about the mortgage. The monthly mortgage on the house is about $7,000. Utilities, 19 bedrooms. Are you kidding me? Utilities is going to be about $1,000. Water, this day and age, another $1,000. On a monthly basis, you guys need to be making about $30,000 to be able to pay mortgage, kids' school, food, and everything. You like the change, you just can't afford it. You know, there is this, one of my students from a previous class encouraged me to go home and watch Sopranos. I've heard a lot about the show, but I've never watched it. So a couple days ago I started, and I'm on season 1, but episode 2. In the second episode of season 1, I mean, this guy, I don't know his name. Is it Soprano? Tony is now sitting with this therapist, and he's trusting her because he's divulging a lot of personal information. And so she says to him, maybe you hate your mother. Now, this is not what cultural people talk about. You know, I can be imposed, exploited by my mother. I can have a lot of rage inside me, but I will never tell anybody, not even myself, that I hate my mom. In our culture, Italian culture, those ideas just don't even exist.
But that's the problem. See,
Hold on.
Now
Hold on.
You had a question for me, you lost me. I just lost you.
No. The thing I'm telling you is this. Despite the fact that Tony trusts this therapist, the moment she says, maybe you hate your mom, he wasn't able to receive that message, even though he's there to change. Because he's not at the place to receive, he can't change. You know, it's one thing for you to say, I am ready to hear. I want to change. But with every change comes a price, a cost. Okay? Let's say you want to change your kid's school. You want to send them to a private school. It's a great idea. The problem is now this. Are you willing to work 2 shifts? Are you willing to see your kids less? Are you willing to tell your husband that he needs to have 3 jobs? He can no longer drink or smoke or spend his money lousily. That's a great amount of change. The desire is good. The intention is good. But the price is too much. It's not that none of us in this class don't want to change. All of us want to change. But when it's actually time for real practical change, you say, it's too much. I'd rather go to the things I'm familiar, which is screaming and shouting and just being an idiot. That's familiar to me.
That's not familiar for everyone.
Again,
It's not healthy for everyone.
if you are ready to change, you'll be okay. Most often we assume that we are ready. As we assume that we are ready to be parents. We assume that we are ready to take classes. We assume that we are ready to devote ourselves to this or that. And then we realize that, yes, we only assume. We're not really ready. So we fake it. Okay? Now, Lena? Yes? Lena?
I was wondering what you about, so you have this inspiration to do things and then it's kind of like a spark, right? It's flames, but then it dies out. What is the mechanism to follow through? Feel inspired to pursue. Is there such a mechanism?
Chris, may I? You sure? Forgive me. Since you're here, it's not good to talk behind people's back, even though I like doing it very much. And I do it quite often. Chris is 31. I met him when you were 20, 21? 23? I think I've told the story, but let me tell the story again. He had just graduated from Cal, getting his bachelor's in philosophy. He came here with a friend of his. He sat, and after class he came up, shook my hand, thanked me, asked me if he could come to class again. I said, sure. And then I think he left. He came the following class meeting. He came up and said, thank you. And I said, what are you doing? Have you gone to school? He says, yeah, I just got my bachelor's in philosophy. Well, what are you doing with it? Nothing, I'm taking a break from school. In my head, I was saying, are you stupid? I wasn't saying that to him, in my head. But what do you do? How do you make a living? I work at Zachary's. Well, you can't do anything with a bachelor's degree in philosophy, man. You're 23, you're young. Take a break for what? You haven't done anything. You don't deserve a break. So I slapped him. Now, why did I slap him? This was his second visit. He liked me enough to come up, shake my hand, thank me. So the trust was there. So I knew that if I was to slap him, he's not going to run away. And he's also a man. He could kind of just hold himself together. I said, listen, if you want to continue coming to this class, you need to do your master's. Not in philosophy. You need to do your master's in humanities. Why? I am the chair of humanities philosophy at Laney College. That gives me a great amount of power. And so when I looked at him, I said, if this guy gets his master's, he doesn't need to do pizza. He can come here and teach. He can make about 50, 60 hours, $50 an hour. And you know why he said yes? He liked me. If he didn't like me, he wouldn't have done it. But you see, his desire to go back to school, you know who created that desire, Lena? I did. Chris thought that he was doing this for himself. No, he was doing it for me. That desire inside him was my investment. It was my energy. It was my imagination of his future. He belonged to me. He could have not shown up to any more classes. He could have said no. But that's not what he did. He signed up. And then he came back and said, I filled the application. I got accepted. I start in a couple of months. I said, give me your phone number. Okay. I texted him, Chris, I'm doing some work in the backyard. Why don't you come over? And he said, am I coming over for breakfast? No. I'll give you some breakfast, yes, but you got to help me with the backyard. He came to my house every day. And do you know what happens when you spend time with someone? See, we are friends, but our friendship is not romantic and it's not casual. It's founded on respect and a healthy dose of fear. Every single day he came to my house. He even sometimes brought his companion. We had food together. Summertime, he would come every day. Then at night, 6 to 9 o'clock when I was teaching a religion class, he would be there after a day's work. And then he comes and says, I finished my degree. The next day he was teaching at Laney. I protected that inspiration that lived inside him. How? By giving him my time, by opening my door to him, by giving him my energy, having my kids see him, my wife see him, my parents see him. Every time my sister comes from Roseville, they go to Zachary's, and once in a while they run into him. And they say, oh, Amir, we went to Zachary's and we ran into your former student, Professor Chris Rubin. If he was not to come to my house, if he would not have this relationship, he would not be teaching. I doubt very much he would even have his master's degree. He would be a bum. I made him into who he is. But the reason why I was able to make him into who he is because he was attracted to my ideas and the way I presented ideas. In about a few months, he will stop coming to class. You know why? He will no longer need me. I have done my job like a good parent. He can now walk on his own 2 feet. He will create his own ideas. He will present ideas the way he sees fit, according to his own temperament, experience, culture, background. No one can do anything if that inspiration that lives inside them remains unprotected. I told him, if you drink, you can't come to my house. If you smoke, you can't come to my house. If you're sleeping around, you can't come to my house. If you got friends who smoke and drink, you can't come to my house. I can't have that stuff in my place. And that respect, along with fear, forced him not to be around that stuff. That's how you protect an inspiration. That's how you make a man or a woman committed to an inspiration. And it no longer becomes an inspiration. It becomes a path of life. Now, here's the thing you need to understand about the path. You have good days, you have bad days. And that's where the marriage vows come about. In sickness and in health. You're going to have many, many bad days, man. You're going to come to class, you're going to have lousy students. You're going to come to class and your mind is just not working. You're going to come to class, you're going to have a great class. The only problem is you have crummy students. Once in a while, you have a great class, you're lecturing well, and students are right there with you. Sickness and in health. You are devoted, you are committed. If you think that you can come to this class and be excited and then go home and play your crappy music, it's not going to work out. You can't have your own emotions. You can't have your own thoughts. Always go back to the wisdom of Jesus. And again, you don't have to be a Christian. You can never love two masters. It's impossible. You see, Chris can't be in love with me and my brother. You know why? Because my brother teaches in a completely different way. He teaches sociology, psychology, and computer science. He's been teaching for about 35 years. His method is research method. He reads tons of books. When he goes to class, he gives his students activities. Sit in a group and do A, B, C, D. An experiment was done at Yale, 1922, about 2 rats. That's how he teaches. But that's not the way I am. My brother is an extrovert. I am an introvert. He can have the cake and eat it too. It doesn't work that way. If you want to be committed, there's only one thing that you need to do, or he had to do. For now, it's only my way. Black and white. He wants to get married, he talks to me. He wants to go to school, he talks to me. Once he becomes mature, he won't need me anymore. If he wants to do a research method, good for him. He has the best of both worlds. You can't do Beethoven and Mozart at the same time. These are 2 different people. They play differently. They have different intentions, different emotions. You'll get yourself confused. You can't be a novice Christian and a novice Buddhist. It doesn't work. The Buddha doesn't believe in sin. No.
Why? Please tell me why. Because you lost me like all of it.
Look. Let's say your mom makes pancakes and you love her pancakes. What do? You sit there and you study the way she makes pancakes. And then you say, Mom, can I do this myself and you can just watch over me? Yeah, I can do that. And then she corrects you. That's not what I do. That's not how the temperature is. Then you do a few times more, and then you say, yes, that's exactly how you do it. Then one morning your mom wakes up and you say, Mom, I got a surprise. I made pancakes, but I put walnuts in it. Your mom says, ooh, I've never done that before. Why do you put walnuts now? Because you know the basics. You know how to make great pancakes. You want to put walnuts, blueberry, crap in it, you can. At the end of the day, everything that you put in there is going to taste good. You know why? You know the basics really, really well.